You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Elisa.
And we have some special friends for you all tonight.
Special friends.
We've got Luke.
Hi, I'm Luke. Avid listener. Happy to be here.
And Tammy.
Hi, I'm Tammy. Avid listener. We'll see if I'll be happy to be here or not.
To be determined.
Wow. What did we do?
We'll see.
The night is young.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have a interesting episode for you guys all tonight. We are going to be talking about the Salem witch trials of the UK.
Yeah, it's called the Pendle Witch Hauntings or Trials.
Both.
Both. Yeah, it also goes by the Lancaster witch trials.
Yeah. It's because the witches, the quote witches, came from Pendleton, but the county was Lancaster, not
Right.
Lancaster.
Yeah.
Was Lancaster.
Lancaster.
And that's where they did the trials. So it makes a little more sense.
Yeah. And here's what I find interesting is this area has been known for not just the witch trials, but other atrocities as well. So in between 1584 and 1643, they executed 15 Catholic monks.
Monks?
What?
What are they going to do?
Exactly. For being
I
Catholic.
mean, well, yeah, because, yeah, they don't want you to be Catholic. That's kind of why the whole witch trial started anyway.
Yeah. And so, like, this happened before and after the witch trials. That these men were sentenced to death.
That's terrible.
Just for being Catholic.
Just for being Catholic. So, what
So-
ended up...
So what was the predominant religion that they were losing their mind over? Was some kind of a Protestant, or what was the...
Well...
Why was the Catholic such a problem at that point?
So, what ended up happening was Queen Elizabeth I, she was actually declared a heretic by the Pope, and she was excommunicated from the church. And so, she wasn't really, she didn't really care for the church at that point in time, so she basically made it outlawed to convert people to Catholicism at the time.
Good to be queen.
You don't want to mess with the queen, right? You want to be on her good side. So
Yeah. And so during that time frame they were actually disassociating all of the monastery or the abbeys and stuff like that. So they were just tearing all of that stuff down in England. And so these monks would normally have to go into hiding, or priests would go into what's called hiding, and then you'd use what they called priest holes. Essentially,
That sounds so wrong.
It does.
I'm sorry.
We're going with this.
What kind of a podcast is this again? Yeah.
Well, surprise.
This is the after hours.
But yeah, it's basically a little hole in the wall that they'd have to hide in as the people were hunting them down to...
this is like
execute them.
underground railroad type stuff in the 1600s
Yeah, but for priests.
for priests.
Yeah.
Jeesh.
That's wild. Never knew that portion of
Yeah, I didn't know that
history
either.
out there. That's wild.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So let me ask.
It doesn't sound like fun to be a monk anyway.
No.
And then you have
No, that sounds
people are trying to
miserable.
murder you on top of it. So
So let me ask, was it one priest per hidey hole or? Just curious.
we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about our hiding holes.
It's just
Well,
better
how
that
many
way.
altar boys per priest?
Okay,
I think
okay.
Whoa.
Oh, we
I
took a wrong turn.
on purpose.
You're so proud.
We feel for you all the time.
He's very handsome, so it's okay.
You're welcome.
If he wasn't so handsome, it'd be a totally different story. So we'll move up to the 17th century. So this started in 1612 that these trials happened. And through this whole trial, 12 people were accused of witchcraft. One person died while in custody. 11 went on trial. And one was tried and found guilty at York, and the other 10 were tried at Lancaster. Only one was found not guilty, and it was an unusual trial in that it was documented in an official publication.
See, what's interesting to me, though, is how that all came about.
Yeah.
Do you have what that came?
Oh yeah,
It's intense, guys.
It is. Here's what's interesting, and this is where this is only kind of associated to the Salem part, right? Salem being the most notorious witch trials we had in the U.S.
We were brutal. Let's just say the U.S. compared to England, we are brutal.
Actually, they put 500 witches to death.
Yes, but I mean, they had a lot more time frame than what we had.
That's true.
But
We had a lot of catching up to do.
But here's the thing. For them, you could actually go to trial, but be acquitted.
Oh.
You
Ours,
You were
couldn't.
dead either
you
way.
were dead either way.
Yeah.
If you wore something weird, if you wore a headband that was weird, you could be called a witch and then instantly be put to death.
If you were single and lived on your own, you were a witch.
If you're an old lady that was
Or
single,
if
you're a
someone
witch.
wanted your property
Yep.
and you weren't willing to sell, they
You were a
claim you're a
witch.
witch.
Yep.
Yeah, well, part of their trials weren't any better, to be honest. So one of the things that's kind of important to understand is just kind of like the background of the environment at the time. So 6 of the 11 witches on trial came from 2 rival families. The Demdike family and the Chaddocks family. Both headed by old poverty-stricken widows, Elizabeth Southerns and Anne Whittle. Old Demdike, or Elizabeth Southerns, have been known as a witch for 50 years. It was an accepted part of the village life in the 16th century that there were village healers who practiced magic and dealt in herbs and medicines. The extent of the spate of witchcraft reported in Pendle at this time perhaps reflected the large amounts of money people could make by posing as witches. Indeed, it was a time when witchcraft was not only feared, but also fascinated those common village folks of King James. James I had great interest in witchcraft even before he took the throne, writing a book, Demonology, instructing the readers to condemn and prosecute both supporters and practitioners of witchcraft. The skepticism of the king became reflected in the feelings of unrest about witchcraft among the common people. You got the king out there writing a book about demonology and how witches are evil. Of course people are going to follow suit.
And it was the same thing. They did the exact same thing as Queen Elizabeth did, where they were like, okay, now anybody who's taken communion, like as a Catholic, then we are going to arrest them and put them in jail and claim them as witches. And we're going to do all these things for the exact same reason, not maybe the exact same reason as Queen Elizabeth, but for his hatred. I mean, they wanted you to worship the crown, not be Catholic and worship that way. Right. So it was very similar and it was terrible.
Yeah, he actually instructed all of his justice of the peace, rough term on this one,
Right. That ain't no peace.
that in the beginning of 1612, they were instructed to compile a list of all those who refused to attend church or take communion. So it's like,
So there's a list.
you're not going to church? You don't want to go to church? Good to put your name on this list.
At least our church, anyway, is what they wanted.
So on March 18th, 1612, a young woman by the name of Helison Device was out begging on the road to Cologne. She stopped a peddler from Halifax, John Law, and asked him for a pin. He refused her request and walked away. According to Allison's own testimony, her familiar spirit in the shape of a dog appeared to her and asked if she would like him to harm Law. Allison was new to the art of witchcraft. Indeed, she seems to have resisted being indoctrinated into what was, in the effect, the family business. But now she agreed that Law must be punished, and she told the dog to lame the peddler. No doubt, to her great surprise, the curse took immediate effect, and Law fell to the ground, paralyzed down one side. Probably by a stroke,
Yeah.
But what a coincidence.
and he was unable to speak.
Well, and here's the thing. So, a familiar, if you guys don't know, a familiar is a spirit in a different form that helps a witch do terrible things.
Oh, I watched Sabrina. I know what a
Usually-
familiar
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
He was taken to the local inn, and later Allison was brought to his bedside. She admitted her part in his illness and begged his forgiveness, which he gave. However, Lawson's son Abraham had become involved, and he was far from satisfied. He took the matter to Roger Nowell, who was the local magistrate, and from there things got a little crazy. Fast.
So let me ask you this. If he was like paralyzed and nonverbal, right,
Yes.
from a stroke,
Yeah.
air quotes, and people can't see, how does she know that he forgave her?
Well, I think it's probably one of those things where you just like learn how to talk again. You know, you learn how to use those muscles and stuff again. I wonder.
But would it be that quick? Because it happened, they took him to the bed.
Oh, how quick was it?
That's what I'm saying is,
That moment.
Oh, it was that day?
Yeah.
right,
It's
so,
entirely possible that you can lose your speech from a stroke for a short period of time and have it
And then
back.
have it come back. Yeah.
maybe he could go like, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
where you don't have to really move your
Or
mouth.
he could
Nodded.
look at her and like grasp her hand with his other hand. You know, they're lots
Right.
of ways to communicate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have wrote on a piece of paper if he was literate and said, "I forgive you."
He could have winked at her. I mean,
Yeah. Blew her a kiss.
farted twice for yes.
That would be a skill on command.
You're like, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Oh, then.
That's his superpower he gained from this witchcraft.
So Allison was interviewed by Roger Nowell as part of this investigation into the witch trial, or to the witches, and she confessed that she had told the devil to lame John Law. It was upon further questioning that Allison accused her grandmother, Old Demdike, and also members of the Chaddix family of witchcraft. The accusations on the Chaddix family seem to have been an act of revenge. The families have been having a feud for years, perhaps since one of the Chaddix family broke into Malkin Tower, which is the home of the Demdikes, and stole goods to the value of £1.
That would be like 100 pounds today.
Yeah. It's like a value of £1. It's like, well, that's not a lot of money. Even $100 today is not that much money.
But I think the point of it is that, like, you came into my house, stole my stuff. Like, how dare you? Like, that. How dare you?
How could you make that?
Well, that's just violating. I mean, I've had my car broken into. They don't steal
It is.
anything because I have nothing that they could steal, but everything's open and spewed out everywhere.
Oh, of
And it
course.
feels violating. Like,
It is, absolutely.
So for clarity, though, up to this point, there's no execution of witches or anything like
No.
this. Like, this is all leading into...
Yeah.
That's where you're saying is all the
It's the
craziness.
beginning.
This is all just,
This is the very beginning of it,
gotcha,
yeah.
family feud right
Well,
now,
there's like,
unless
so
they've
these
executed
two
people.
families, they want to be top dog. They want to be like the witches that you want to go to be healed, right? It's a business, right? It's like the family business. And you've got two people that have family businesses and they want to be,
Top witch.
Yeah.
yeah,
So they want to get rid of their competition.
the witch. They want to be the
Yeah.
witches, you know? So that's basically what it boils down to, is just these two families that
Yeah.
want to be claimed as the best ones.
So at this point, it's like, oh no, we want to be witches. We're good witches.
Oh,
We wanna
100%.
be the witches. There's
Yeah.
there's nothing bad about witches at this point.
No. And at this point, like, there were people pretending to be witches to earn money because that's how bad it wasn't yet.
Yeah, people wanted to be. It's like people wanted to be the witch because then people would come to them and say, "Heal me."
Yeah, it's this. Yeah, it's the same thing as people pretending to be mediums and saying like, "Oh, I can predict your future as a psychic. I can do whatever," but they're really not. But they just want to earn money to do it.
Well,
Just call this 900 number. It's only $5.99 the first minute.
Look, you got to respect the hustle.
Right?
well, it just, I guess, to me, it's like, okay, this is a valued profession. What do you do? Well, I'm a blacksmith, or I'm a farmer,
Right.
or I'm a witch.
Yep.
Yep.
And it was something that women could do.
But it's a healer, you
Yeah.
know. And if this woman is however old she is, and she's got all these kids, she probably does know a bunch of herbs and things
Oh,
that actually work,
100%.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
because it's not like a doctor was necessarily a thing at that point. It was
Well,
like there
isn't
was
it-
something to be.
Like these are
To
the
heal.
three doctors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and isn't it funny how it went from like this is what everybody needs with having these witches, quote witches, right? They're really just healers, to we're going to use that against them and we're going to push pharmaceutical stuff. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, not everybody, but a lot of people are using that again now. They're using the natural healings.
Natural holistic type stuff.
Holistic.
Yeah.
People will search for that now, and it's a very common thing. So many people have essential oils in their house or use, I do, yeah, or plants that they use for certain things or,
Sure.
Whatever.
so, we should be looking out for some trials to come up soon.
I would totally be a witch. I would have been dead.
You got a little Ian Newt doing a bat in the corner, then yeah.
Is Fig Newton close enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Eye of fig.
I have Fig Newton.
Fig, I have
Fig Newton.
So, furthermore, John Device blamed the illness that led to his death on old Chaddix, who had threatened to harm his family if they did not pay their annual protection money.
Oh, so we got mafia.
So they're the
Yeah.
mob, they're the mob as well.
Well, wasn't it like oatmeal?
I don't
Wait.
know. I don't know what the price was. But
Okay.
It was just like
£1.
Pay us-
Everything is £1.
pay us protection.
So what it was is we would give you 8 pounds of oatmeal, Quaker Oats, and because I think this is where Quaker Oats came from, but we will pay you 8 pounds of oatmeal if you don't kill us, if you don't harm us.
Oh, wow.
And so they did that every year until they died or something like that.
Oatmeal
So
tax.
should we be eating oatmeal every day to protect ourselves from witches?
Luke does.
I mean,
That's why I've never had an experience yet, because I eat oatmeal.
oh, see? We figured it
Like
out.
overnight
coming
oats
clear.
for me.
So everybody, eat your oats. Especially overnight oats. It will protect you from witches.
Invest in Quaker oatmeal.
That's right. And a little shuru.
Hence, listen to our episode of the
Salem.
Witch Trials.
Yes.
This last one.
Okay, so here's a question. So when was the Salem witch trials happening in relationship to this time? Like, what are a year's differences on these?
This started a lot earlier.
This
Over
is much
100
earlier.
years earlier.
Okay.
I wouldn't say
This is 1612. We weren't even a country until 1776. So, been a hot minute.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's so crazy when you think about. You're like, oh yeah, this stuff's been happening in the UK for, since 1205, and you're like, wait, we weren't even a country back then.
No,
We were a colony.
their history goes so much further back than ours.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what you were saying. It's like, okay, more people died, but it was in a much longer time period. So that's what's kind of interesting about it.
Yeah.
We like to be efficient here, so I guess that makes sense.
So deaths of 4 other villagers that had occurred years before the trial were raised, and the blame laid on witchcraft performed by Chaddix. James Demdike confessed that Alazin had also cursed a local child sometime before Elizabeth, although more reserved in making accusations, confessed her mother had a mark on her body, supposedly where the devil had sucked her blood, which left her mad.
It was a
Well,
mole,
yeah.
guys. It was a mole. For crying out loud.
Well, maybe it was Nosferatu.
Oh, jeez.
These are the witch trials, not the vampire trials, okay?
Is it the Vampire Diaries?
Yeah, right?
That was such a good show, though.
On further questioning, both Old Demdike and Chattox confessed to selling their souls. Also,
Which is a thing.
It still is today.
It still is today. If you look at musicians,
Mm-hmm.
some will say that they were not musicians until they sold their souls to the devil.
Katy Perry's one of them.
Yep.
good
It's a thing.
gracious.
Look it up.
Yep.
I know a guy sold his soul on eBay.
Oh
I
my
saw that.
gosh.
And eBay wrote back to him. Did you see that?
No, I
No,
didn't
what-
see that.
eBay wrote back to him, and they were very clever, and they were like, okay, one, you're trying to sell a soul that doesn't exist, therefore it's not worth anything. Two, if it is a soul that exists, it's in you, which is considered a human body part, and you cannot sell it on eBay, but thank you for trying. So either way, they were like, either way, sorry, take your soul off the listing.
You can't sell your soul because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But if it did exist,
Yes. No, they're saying, look, either way, we're not saying one way or the other. They didn't take a stance, but it was clever, though. I mean, you could,
That's pretty
you could
funny.
technically just get a big payment. And you're like, I'm keeping the soul and the money.
I want a refund.
Yep.
It's like you buying a star. You get your little
Exactly.
certificate that you
Right.
own your star. You get a little, little
We
certificate
could
that
be
you
doing
own
this,
this
babe. We
soul
could be
now.
selling our soul over and
There
over
we go.
again. Bringing in the money.
Makes me wonder what would the return policy be on something like that? Like, hey, it's damaged. The soul is damaged. It's broken.
do you have to disclaim soul damage before sale?
Because that depends on
wouldn't
what's in
know.
the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My soul has a lot of baggage. Just warning you.
Comes with extra baggage.
Well, maybe that's even more expensive because of more complicated soul. Either way, it's not going to work on eBay, so we'll have to have a new website for that. Maybe Facebook Marketplace will take some souls.
That's what the dark web is for.
Right? A bunch of souls on there.
So also, Anne, Chattox's daughter, was allegedly seen creating clay figures. She's making dolls. After hearing this...
Well, this is
evidence-
equivalent to like voodoo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know.
After hearing this evidence, the judge detained Allison, Anne, Old Demdike, and Old Chattox and waited for trial. The story would have ended there had it not been for a meeting held at Malkin Tower by James Device, Allison's brother, for which he stole a neighbor's sheep. Sympathetic to the family attending, but word reached the judge, who felt compelled to investigate. As a result, 8 more people were summoned for questioning and then to trial.
Dang kid. Stealing the sheep.
You're just bad.
That's horrible.
That was such a dad joke.
That was so horrible.
And yet, I got laughs.
It's out of pity, pure pity.
No, mine was genuine laughter. That's clever. I appreciate it.
So the most famous of the Pendle Witches, which was Elizabeth Southerns, she never did go to trial. She's the one that actually died
In jail.
in jail.
From just like a disease or old age? What are we talking here?
Well, so this jail was actually in the dungeon of Lancaster Castle.
Okay.
So I can imagine it would be like,
The environment.
well, wet,
Rats.
rats,
Yeah.
diseases. You know, I'm dark. I'm sure it's all the things.
Not
she was
a
old.
great bathroom situation.
And she
No.
was old.
And she was old. And
So
they didn't
probably
say
more
how.
susceptible
No, I
to.
think she was 80 at this point.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That's really old
honestly,
for
she
that.
could have died of old age. And it'd just be coincidental that she ended up dying in the castle.
Like,
Yeah.
don't quote me on that, but I'm
Yeah, I
From
think she
my
was-
room.
Pretty sure she was
Yeah.
she was-
up there in
She was
age.
definitely old aged.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I want to say 80.
Or she was 40 that looked 80.
I mean, back in those
It
days,
was a
wasn't
hard
that
life
like
back
normal?
then.
There was
Yeah.
no retinol cream.
Your average lifespan was
Yeah.
40 years old.
Yeah.
There was no plastic surgery either,
Oh.
so
That's the real devil in the story.
yes, it is.
But she had admitted to Noel that she was a witch. In doing so, like we already discussed, she actually implicated her co-accuser, Anne Whittle, who was herself accused of murder by witchcraft of Robert Nutter.
I don't think he's done.
Also implicated were the members of both families, Elizabeth Device, Demdike's daughter, who was accused of 2 murders, as was her son James, while Allison was to stand trial for what she had done to John Law on the fateful spring day only 5 months earlier. Anne Redfern, Chaddock's daughter, stood accused of murder of Christopher Nutter 18 years previously.
See, here's where it gets a little sketch for me. I'm like, oh, so you just want to throw that in? Like, you didn't care 18 years ago.
Why does it matter now?
Why all of a sudden are you tacking that on?
Yeah.
Because they can.
Well, they do that today too.
Well, yeah, murder does have no statute of limitations, so you can be accused of murder 60 years after you did it.
Right, but
But
I'm
I-
just saying that's like a trend today too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things will come up whether it's murder or not. It's a magnitude of other things that come up that, you know.
But how did they, I mean, the question is how did they figure that part out? Because, like, it's 18 years prior.
I don't
So
know.
someone either confessed or...
No, I honestly think it's somebody saying, we're going to put that on there because we know they're dead and we don't know why they died. This way we can get you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you can't prove me wrong.
Right.
So,
There's no way.
And we'll
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
why you can't prove them wrong in just a little bit. It's terrible. Good thing we have some new laws and rules today. Others dragged into the affair were John and Jane Bulcock, a mother and her son, who were tried for causing madness and for being at the so-called Witches' Sabbath held at Malkin Tower on Good Friday, 1612. Alice Nutter from Rothley Hall was accused of killing one Henry Mitten because he refused to give Demdike a penny.
cheapskate.
Well, I mean, when they were worried about a pound, I mean that's 100 of those pennies.
It's a very different time.
Such a difference.
Yeah.
Margaret Pearson was accused of bewitching one of her neighbor's horses to death.
What?
Oh my gosh, sorry guys. I keep
Yeah.
laughing.
Is there more on
So
that?
stupid.
Nope.
Oh man.
Nope. Catherine Hewitt was accused of murder of Anne Folds. The prisoners were not allowed to have defense counsel to plead for them, nor could they call any witnesses to speak on their behalf. So they had accusations against them.
And they couldn't do anything about it.
They couldn't defend themselves.
Seems pretty lopsided, don't it?
Very lopsided. But it was law at the time that if you were accused of being a witch because you were commuting with the devil, you didn't deserve to have defense.
So, okay, so here's one thing that I'm confused about. If you're accused of being a witch, and so you don't have all of these rights, but they want to be the top witch in town, it seems to be that disconnect of, okay, I want to be the witch and I want to be the top witch that everybody comes to, yet I have these laws against me for being a witch that seem kind of negative. So I guess I'm a little lost there about the differences of those. What am I missing?
Well, this is the time frame. Because in the beginning, that's how it was. They wanted to be top dog, right? In the beginning. But then...
So they just wrote those then, so the laws changed suddenly when now it's bad to be a witch.
No, the laws were always there. The thing is more of a blind eye,
Yeah.
right? Because the thing is you're way away from the king. You're in a village.
Yep.
And so...
Well,
who
and
cares?
so at this point also, there are 2 men that are trying to I can't remember what it's called, but it's like being a governor or being a mayor, right, of these areas. And they want to be in the good graces of the king. And so they're like, and the king puts out these rules. And so this is like a perfect opportunity to be in the good graces of the king. Be like, look, all these people that I just took care of for you.
So it's almost like using a law on the books that's never been used before because, okay, now it's convenient me. It helps me look good, so I'm going to use this unused law. It's kind of like, okay, you're not supposed to, ride an ox on Main Street, one of those weird laws that you hear about places. So now we're going to prosecute it because now there's a good reason to, because it's going to make me look better.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
There's a political advantage.
100%.
I've
And it
never
actually
seen that before.
It actually worked.
Is that a...
It worked in his favor.
That's wild.
He got what he wanted out of this whole thing.
Messed up.
It is. So
It's like, it blows my mind because it's like, I just killed all of these people for you. And like openly killed all of these people. Turned their families against them. And just for power. Nowadays, it happens behind closed doors. But then it was like everybody knew it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a thing. Like everybody knew it and they could get away with it.
I think it's happening a lot more blatantly in front of our faces now.
Well, yes, because media, is really helpful with all of that and they're catching things and bringing them to light and whatever. But it's not like they're going out on court being like, hey, I just killed all of these people for you.
Sure.
They're not going to court and openly saying.
Painted in another way now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, in addition to the 10 defendants from the Pendle location, so-called Samlesbury witches.
I always want to say Sanderson, just for focus reason.
Because they are the best.
They are.
John Ramsden, Elizabeth Ashley, Isabel Southgraves, Lawrence High, Jane Southworth, Janet Brearley, and Ellen Brearley, all along with Isabel Robbie from Windle, which was near St. Helens, and Margaret Pearson, the Pandaham witch, were also tried. So not only to hey, let's bring these people in here, but we're going to bring in some more people too.
I know. They were ruthless.
Let's get them all.
I like the name, though. Panda Ham.
Pandaham.
It's kind of catchy.
It is.
Panda Ham.
But it seems like, too, if you're creating kind of that hysteria, everyone would get... And then it's like, you have to kind of choose, am I going to be an accuser or am I going to sit around and wait to be accused? Almost. That's what it seems like to me.
That's what happened in Salem, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is different. This is just one person doing the accusation?
Actually, yeah. So their star witness for the Pendle Witches was the 9-year-old granddaughter of old Demdike.
The one with the familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janet Device was the...
Which, this blows my mind. Do you have the story for this?
I don't.
Okay, so the story goes is they accused that 9-year-old girl of being a witch and then said to her, we'll keep you safe if you out the rest of your family.
Oh, dang.
And it was her and her brother. If you guys both go behind your parents' back and your family's back, then we'll keep you guys alive. So here is mom sitting there in trial, and the doors open, and here walks in her 9-year-old daughter, and she screams, she yells, and she demands that her daughter leave because that is not fair on her daughter to have to talk against her own mother. And they did it anyway. She actually had to climb up onto a table because she was so little.
Oh, jeez.
And accused her own family because of her testifying. It killed 10 people.
Yeah, but essentially the entire all 10 witches.
Yeah, so it was her family and neighborhood. So can you imagine the ramifications of this 9-year-old girl later in life. Like the neighborhood, the area, people wouldn't want to be around her, wouldn't want to talk to her. They could sympathize, but
she just gets to be with the governor, and then she's fine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
right. But she's little at this point. To me, as the governor in this
it's sick.
scenario,
It's very sick.
It's terrible. But I would think that he would use her for what he needed and then toss her aside because
Yeah.
he doesn't need her anymore.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
it is crazy. Well, here's what she testified in court, right?
Yeah.
She said, familiar spirits of the making of clay images in order to cause death of the Sabbath, supposedly held at Melkin Tower on Good Friday, it was decided to blow up the castle and kill the governor, Thomas Covell, in order to free those imprisoned there. She spoke of witches mounting ponies and flying off on them before vanishing into thin air inevitably.
I mean, I want a flying pony.
I'll
Gotta
take
be a
one.
witch.
I mean, where can I get one?
I mean, who needs a broom when you got a pony?
Do I go talk to a witch to get one of these?
Are we sure they weren't unicorns?
I mean,
'Cause-
that would be cool. I'll take one of those
That
too.
would explain a little bit more.
right?
And so, of course, her mom, Elizabeth, was found guilty.
Oh man.
So, next to be tried was Mr. James Device. He was in pitiable condition. It may even have been physically ill and badly treated during his imprisonment. However, there was little sympathy for him, and after more hearsay evidence in his own testimony, he was found guilty, along with Elizabeth and Anne Whittle. So, the interesting thing is the Samsselbury witches, although there was nothing, that had nothing to really do with the Pendle Witches, 3 of those women were accused of practicing witchcraft on the person, on Grace Sourbutt's.
Oh, I love it.
3 Sanderson sisters cursing the sour butts.
Yep.
It's your new nickname, Luke.
What's that?
That's Luke's new nickname.
Sour butts.
Sour
There you
butts.
go. Yeah.
Okay.
It's fun to say.
I like it.
I know.
Well, what's amazing to me is from how it's so much of this is based off of hearsay. Somebody makes an accusation, 0 evidence,
Yeah.
quote unquote. It's
Yeah.
all just hearsay, and it's a 9-year-old talking about flying ponies, and that's considered enough to
Right?
kill somebody.
So
Yeah.
they
That's
actually
just
it's mind blowing. They actually say that neighbors, family, and liars could come.
And liars?
The liars part.
Isn't that ridiculous? Neighbors, family, and liars are accepted
It's like, hey, you
to
liar.
come and talk against.
I'm a chronic liar. I don't tell the truth about anything.
Oh, come right in.
It's
Like,
crazy.
Yeah.
like you're saying though. It's like, okay, the verdict was already in, so it was,
Yeah.
okay, this is what we're gonna do. So it doesn't matter any of
No.
that. If this is just gonna be the,
Yep.
all right,
Yeah.
let's throw the 9-year-old in there, say a few things, say these things. Okay, good.
It's almost just for ceremony purposes.
Almost.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Just so they can document it and say they did their due diligence, and now ban them or however they.
Does she
them.
float?
Short drop.
Does she sink or swim?
Well, what's interesting is the Samlesbury witches, they actually were acquitted
Yeah.
because they were able to convince the judge that they were victims of a Catholic plot.
See, that's the
So
bonus
the Catholics
side.
did it. It was the Catholics. I'm free. I'm innocent.
That was like
Clever.
the bonus side of the witch trials here versus Salem, because Salem it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
But at least
Yeah.
here you had a chance to be acquitted. Where in
Right.
other places
You had no chance.
You had no choice.
Yeah.
No.
So that was only day 1 of the trials. So the second day commences, and that's where Anne Redfern, who had already been acquitted for 1 murder, now she was being tried for killing Christopher Nutter 18 years previously. And the evidence hinged on Nutter's daughter remembering that her father believed he was the victim of a curse. She had also been seen making clay images by James Device, and she was subsequently found guilty.
Oh boy.
Don't work with clay, guys.
You don't work with clay, and it's okay that your daughter will put you behind, will get you executed.
But we're gonna make sure that we make her feel guilty first. Like, we're gonna make sure that she thinks she's going to die too.
Yep.
Let's just put that in there first,
Let's just scare her. Yeah.
Then we'll say, well, we're gonna save you.
Yeah, no
But-
coercion there at
No,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, next on the dock was Alice Nutter, which was Christopher's daughter. She was a gentlewoman, and evidence against her was just as flimsy as everybody else. However, her fate was sealed by Janet Device, who identified her as being present at the infamous Witches' Sabbath. Alice, too, was convicted, and the trial of Catherine Hewart went much the same way, with little Janet again the star witness. Catherine was convicted as well. Janet's evidence against John and Jan was even more slight. She remembered John turning a spit on which they had roasted a lamb on Good Friday. It was illegal to aid or assist a witch, and this was enough in 1612, along with other hearsay evidence to seal the fate of both of them.
So here's the thing: they actually weren't even there. They weren't there.
Yeah,
They were not at that meeting.
they weren't there, but they were accused of being there and helping them roast a lamb for the family. And if they're doing that, you're aiding and abetting a witch, and that's enough to be off with your head. Terrible. Margaret Pearson was tried for killing a horse by riding it to death,
Oh my gosh.
which they
Oh,
call
jeez.
hag-ridden. Which, interesting enough, is the modern form of, the modern form of that word is haggard.
I was gonna say, is that it? Is that where they got
Yeah.
Harry Potter's Hagrid name?
Not Hagrid, but haggard.
I know, but I'm like, I just wonder.
Hagrid. Well, it is like a lot of the names, the surnames there were based off of whatever your profession was.
Yeah.
So maybe that is it is actually Hagrid is the new non-Old English version of Haggard, which is the Haggard. Yeah.
I mean, it
was
makes
like-
sense to me.
Yeah. That's where Smith came from, because that's where
Yeah.
they used to be Smiths.
Yep.
So while she was actually convicted, she was never condemned. So, talk about getting off, in a sense. Like, you're guilty, we're not going to kill you.
She used witchcraft.
Yep.
Yes.
She used her little voodoo. Maybe
So-
she made her little clay dolls in the basement.
There you go. Hers actually worked this time. The other ones were duds.
No one saw her.
Well, was this the one that had already done her job by being able to execute the other ones?
No.
No, this is a different. Okay.
Somebody else.
Keep up, Luke. Come
She's
on.
the one that rode the horse to death.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, she was Hagrid.
This is
Remember?
Hagrid.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hagrid.
That's Hagrid. Alison Device was the last of the Pendle Witches to be tried. Unusually, the key witness against her was also the victim, John Law. He was the object of much pity, as his brush with Allison had left him crippled. When he was assisted into the courtroom, Allison rushed to him and begged his forgiveness once more, which he again gave. The court was moved to ask her if she could help restore him to health. She told them that she was not powerful enough, but that old Demdike, had she lived, could have done so. And thus, Allison was found guilty.
Oh, jeez.
The little girl? No, there's
She's
another
not-
one.
No, that's the. She's not a little.
Now look who's not keeping
I
up.
was saying,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
keep
Right
up.
back at me.
Yeah.
Karma.
It's all right.
So all that
Poor
remained-
Allison.
Yeah, poor Allison. All that remained was for the sentences to be handed down. Bromley had little option. Under the terms of the 1604 Witch Act, all the accused that had been found guilty of crimes was punishable by death. So on August 20th, the day after the trial ended, in 1610, the 10 condemned prisoners were taken to the moors above the town and hanged.
Jeez.
So no even opportunity to appeal or
Nope.
anything.
Nope. It was a 2-day trial. At the end of the trial, that was it.
Wow.
You were hung.
One and done.
Oh,
Jeez.
it's efficient.
Yes.
Well, it's unlike today where it's like now you're sentenced to death and you wait 20 years
30
Right?
years.
Yeah.
You
more.
die in prison.
and they don't ever do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's... Then it was a lot more efficient, but also inefficient.
Horrifying.
And now it's like you're the very last day. You've been sitting on death row for 20, 30 years. But on the very last day, you can have a trial and be acquitted.
Yeah. So what's interesting is with all of this death and pain and destruction, there should be hauntings.
Yes.
And there should be a plethora of hauntings, considering the Pendle Hill area is listed as one of the most haunted locations in all of the UK.
Let's chat about some of them.
Yes.
Okay. In a terrifying Ouija board experiment, which was being carried out at the bottom of Malkin Tower, the old home of 2 of the notorious witches, a random tooth landed on the table, according to the staff. Victoria Barker, events manager at Haunted Happenings, said the spooky incident happened about 5 years ago. She said, "We were up there doing a Ouija board at Malkin Tower, and we were sitting around the table. This really old yellow tooth just landed out of nowhere. We were all really shocked about it because we just could not understand where this tooth had come from. It wasn't like someone present could have thrown it on the table. It really shook us all up because we could not establish where it had come from. The yellow tooth, which on later investigation was revealed to have belonged to an adult around 40 years of age and was kept as a souvenir by one of the ladies on the tour." Why? That's disgusting.
Well, that's who has my tooth.
That was Jamie's. Found it.
I'm in my 40s. I mean,
And other bizarre things that have happened on Pendle Hill during the team's ghost hunts include mysterious shadows of figures and a sighting of an eerie dog shadow. Ooh, maybe it was the familiar.
It's the only
right.
explanation.
That's it.
The only explanation to a shadow dog figure.
Victoria added, "We have seen shadows in the darkness of people walking around, but when you look, there's literally nobody there. We've also seen this dog-like figure at the top, but when we look, there's nobody and there's nothing there. It's all very odd. People have been very spooked about that. At the present time, the memorizing an eerie hill continues to be associated with witchcraft, attracting large numbers of curious visitors every Halloween."
It's a huge hill.
I would go.
I want to see a dog. I've seen 2 dogs. One was in
Ghost dogs.
one was in a cemetery, which was super weird. It was like this black ghost dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then another, yeah, right, totally random. Because it was running and then disappeared.
Nice.
So that was like, otherwise I just thought it would have been a dog, right? Because it's dark. And then the other one, I was babysitting and their dog had passed away that year. And it was a black dog. And it was the sweetest thing named Daisy. So cute dog. Anyways, their dog died, buried in the backyard. And the little boy that didn't know the dog because he was too little, had grown up a little bit. And he was like, "There's a dog." And I looked and I was like, "Oh, snap." I ain't doing that. Nope. So I lived across the street, so I call him. I'm like, "Mom, there's a ghost dog." Anyway, okay, next one. Lower Wellhead Farm is located in a rather well-known region of Lancashire. Nope, let's try that again. Lancashire?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go with that. Known as Pendle Hill. The exact date the farm was originally constructed isn't known, but records date it to roughly 1600. The area is famous for the witch trials of 1612, when a host of witches were uncovered and blamed for a total of 10 murders in the surrounding area. Of the 12 convicted for the crimes, 11 were tortured, like we had talked about, and then executed in the August of 1612. The farmhouse would have been a home to a number of these witches, and if it is haunted, by who? Many different phenomena have been reported in the farmhouse, ranging from tall, dark shapes that have been seen walking around the outside of the building and in the dining room to whispering noises and the feeling of being strangled. Maybe they're being hung.
Right?
There is also an unknown mischievous spirit in the master bedroom who opens doors and snatches the door out of people's hands. Well, that would be kind of fun.
It would be a little startling, though. Like,
Go reach for the door and it just rips out.
yeah, or like you're slowly opening the door and then it just like slams open.
You mean slam shut?
I mean, open. I mean, thrown open.
Thrown open. Okay.
Well, it doesn't slam open.
We got it. We got where you were going, though.
We knew what you meant.
The spirit of a little girl around 7 to 9 years of age has been identified by mediums as being Janet Device, who was the key witness in the murder trials, then saw her mother and grandmother both put to death. Her ghost has been seen wearing a white nightgown whilst crying in the upstairs bedroom. I mean, I'd freaking be crying after I know that I just put my family to death.
How could you not?
Ugh.
What's interesting, though, is that if she lived to an older age and
Right.
didn't die at 9, why would she choose to come back as a 9-year-old?
Here's the thing. I wonder if it's just something that repeats.
Or just residual?
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that, because that was so emotional during that
Yeah.
time. Like, I really wonder if it was something that she's just put out all this energy in that one spot. And she probably did it many, many, many nights.
Oh, yeah.
And as we know, it's not like they had a ton of clothes. We'd wear a different pair of pajamas every night. They wore the same things.
Right.
So,
Well, didn't you just say we don't know what happened to her?
no.
We don't.
So it's like, to me, it almost seems like if she just killed her entire family, where else would she go? Nobody wants to take care of the witch child.
Well, yeah. Well,
And so
you wonder...
Maybe she did die at that time period, or didn't make it that much longer.
Well, and you also wonder, like, what did the neighbors do to her?
Yeah.
Right.
Because they might have taken things in their own hands. We don't know.
Yeah.
So if somebody does know that's out there and somebody does know her story, we want to hear it because
Absolutely.
we're definitely
Oh, yeah.
curious about whatever happened to that poor little girl. So also dragging noises are often heard along the walls of the upstairs corridor. That's kind of creepy. Dragging noises are often heard along the walls of the upstairs corridor. Could these be made by Elizabeth Southerns, most often known as Elizabeth Demdike? Demdike is known to have died in her cell, age 80. Hey, I was right.
You're right.
While the witch trials were ongoing, and is also known to haunt the neighboring Tydell farm. The farm is located in the borough of Pendle, Lancashire, England. The farm dates back to the 17th century and is once part of the larger Tydell estate. During the infamous Pendle witch trials of 1612, several accused witches were said to have lived in the area surrounding the... I'm not even know if I'm saying this right. Tydell, I don't know.
Sure.
Sorry. We're just going to go with it. Farm through no direction connected to the property that has been established. In the early 1800s, the farm was owned by the Hartley family, who reported strange occurrences on the property. These included unexplained noises, objects moving on their own, and sightings of shadow figures in the farmhouse windows. The most notable ghostly encounters at the Tydell farm occurred in 1823, when farmer John Hartley claimed to have seen an apparition of a young woman in a white dress walking through the orchard at dusk. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, subsequent owners and tenants of the Tydell farm reported similar paranormal experiences. In 1912, a farm worker named Thomas Wilkinson reported seeing a group of spectral figures dressed in 17th century clothing walking across the fields at night. He described them as transparent and gliding rather than walking. In the 1950s, the farmhouse became the focus of more intense paranormal activity. The Parker family, who lived there at the time, reported hearing disembodied footsteps, witnessing doors opening and closing on their own, and feeling sudden cold spots throughout the building. Their young daughter claimed to have regular conversations with an invisible friend named Mary, whom she described as wearing old-fashioned clothes. More recent paranormal experiences that the farm included were reports of a phantom horse and rider seen galloping across the fields at night, and the sound of distant muffled voices coming from empty rooms in the farmhouse. Okay, that's got to be the horse that was ridden to death.
That's what I was thinking.
But I
That
didn't
sounds
hear
like Go ahead.
I didn't hear anything about flying ponies though.
No,
So
Yeah,
I'm quite-
where are
I'm quite
those?
Disappointed.
I know.
Could you imagine seeing the ghost of a flying pony?
That would be freaking sweet.
It would be so cool.
They
Like-
do exist.
Like people are like, "Oh, I saw a ghost of a horse." It's like, "Oh, cool. Where was it? In the sky."
What?
But it would.
Have you seen the doctor lately?
But the thing is that like it wouldn't be a horse; it'd be a pony. It'd be a little thing
With little
tiny
wings.
thing flying in the air. That'd be so
They
cute.
didn't say it had wings. They just said they flew.
Like a My Little Pony.
Yes, like a My Little Pony.
But what I also find interesting is that whenever there's sightings of women at night, they're either wearing a white wedding dress, or a woman in white, or they're wearing white nightgowns
Yep.
every time.
Yep.
All right. Pendle Hill in Lincolnshire is a well-known and traumatic location. Considered one of the most haunted places in the world, it has been terrifying generations of ghost hunters. All thanks to those infamous Pendle Witches. But has a ringleader finally been caught on camera? Christine Hamlet seems to think she's done just that. St. Mary's Churchyard is said to be just as affected by the Pendle Witches as Tyndale Farm, which the courtyard being the dumping ground for the lifeless bodies of the executed 12, it would seem logical. However, looking at the photograph, it doesn't seem to fit the description of Elizabeth Demdike, or that of the women at all. So we did a little digging and found out of the 11 hung in 1612, there was 9 women, 2 men, and 1 little girl. The little girl was Janet Preston, age 9. The sad thing was that Janet was actually the key witness, and her evidence brought around the demise of her grandmother, Elizabeth Demdike, and the others. The little girl had been seen many times by visitors at the St. Mary's Churchyard, but this is the first time she's been caught on camera. Hold up, they're saying she got hung?
So that's why there's no history of her because that's
She's dead.
yeah.
I didn't
Because
see anything
of
about her
all the
dying.
research that I have done, I have never heard of anything about her.
Like what happened to her?
No.
I
Nothing.
haven't seen anything either.
And now
That
it's
would-
saying she got
That
hung.
would make sense though if there's
It
no
would.
other history from her.
Because
That was one of them.
I did hear of a boy, and maybe could be one of the men that they're mentioning.
I'm gonna post a picture on our socials when we post this.
Yeah.
It is a little girl, or it looks like a girl in a hallway. It looks like a little girl.
So I
This
wonder,
picture.
I really wonder if what they did is, because there was a boy as well that was convicted, or not convicted, but that they used against other people in court. And they said the same thing to him, but they still convicted him. So he didn't get out of it.
Well,
so
it's-
I wonder if they did the same thing with that little girl.
Yeah, it sounds
might
like it sounds like a very convenient way of tying up all the loose ends. Everybody's involved with him. You just have them
Right.
accuse
Yeah,
each other,
100%.
kill them all off to get get
Yeah.
your power that you're talking about, and nobody can say anything otherwise because they're now dead because
Right?
they murdered somebody.
Well, and it's like they're not going to grow up and say,
This is what really happened.
well, this is what really happened. So they can't talk bad about it. They can't say, I actually lied. They coerced me to do this. And
Right.
Yeah, they tied that all up in a nice, happy little bow.
Yeah. Well, they said they did their research. They did some digging. So, woo. All right. The ghosts of the Lancaster Castle. Not witch trial related, but the location is associated to the trials. There have been many strange and unusual paranormal sightings at the Lancaster Castle, some of which can be explained, others which are shrouded in mystery. All of them set the shivering running down your spine. The old cells beneath the Crown Court are haunted by many ghosts. In particular, a little boy called Thomas has often been seen in cell 2, used during lock-in experiences on guided tour. He is dressed in clothes from the 1890s, sporting and looking like Artful Dodger, with ankles grazing trousers, a flat cap, and blonde hair. Like the Dickinson character of the legend, he whips around the corner from the cell as visitors go in. Colin Penny, Shire Hall manager, once led a tour into this old cell with a group of what he thought were 5 people. When he opened the door to let them out, there were only 4. He checked the till receipts and found that 5 people had indeed been on this tour. What's more, everyone else on the tour swore blind that there was another mystery person that had joined them, before mysteriously disappearing. Colin also remembered a time when he was locking up the castle for the night, when he heard an old-fashioned telephone call coming from the police room near the library. He opened the door and checked what was happening, and found the telephone had not rung. Indeed, it could not have rung, for its wires had been disconnected decades ago, and its innards had been removed. A call from beyond the grave? Ooh.
Yeah, too bad he didn't answer it.
Okay,
Right.
hold up. This actually reminds me. So last night, I went ghost hunting with my family, and my kid's watch was calling me. It called me 3 times, and we watched it. His watch called me 3 times, and he wasn't even touching it. And then it would mysteriously just hang up on its own.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
3 times. It was way cool. So I guess it happens.
Did you cleanse the watch? Because that's evil.
Or maybe it just wanted to talk to you.
I know. I'm like, I should have freaking just answered it, but it would hang up right when I would look at, because I get my phone calls on my watch, right? And so I would look at it, and I was like, what the heck? And I'd get ready to just like hang it up. Because I'd be like, Miles, why are you calling me? And he's like, Mom, I'm not. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And I would go to push the hang up button, and it would end.
Huh.
Sometimes it would ring just a couple times, and sometimes it would ring, for 10 seconds.
Wow.
Crazy. Okay. In the modern prison, known as C Wing, the top floor was regularly haunted by a ghost of a gray lady. No matter how big or blurry the prisoner who was placed in the cell, they would always scream and be released soon after their incarceration. That'd be funny. Prison officers have reported shadows moving across the gateway, one which was actually captured on CCTV. The footage was removed by their superiors before it could be broadcasted. The ghosts of the Scottish army marching up the cobbles towards the gatehouse has also been seen, but only half of their bodies were visible. When the prison was closed in 2011, the last person to lock up the castle found themselves locked inside the security office in the gatehouse. They entered the room when a sudden gust of wind slammed the door tight shut. They tried with all their might to pull the door open, but to no avail. Then they felt a ghostly hand pull them into a chair in the office, and they were held there, completely immobile, for 10 minutes. There was reported to me by the last security guard at HMP Lancaster, who was no great believer in ghosts, but they swore that this story was true. Okay, witch trial related.
It's crazy to think that you've got to feel bad for this guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the last one out. He's just finishing up locking up. And how do you get repaid? You get thrown into a chair
And held there.
And held there for 10 minutes. And
That's
locked in a room.
That's a powerful entity, though, to
Yes.
hold you for 10 minutes, let alone shove
Here's
you
the
in
thing.
a
I
chair.
really wonder if it was 10 minutes or if it felt like 10 minutes. Because
See, now that's more believable to me.
Yeah.
Something really scary happens.
It feels
and you're
like
It
forever.
feels like it lasts forever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
reality
that would
hits,
make
and it was
sense.
like
A
30
few seconds. Yeah.
See, I want to know because he said he wasn't a great believer in ghosts.
I wonder if he is now.
Before. Yeah, is he now?
I'm sure.
Seems implied with that statement.
I'm sure that ghost was like, "I'll prove you,
You don't believe
suckers.
me?
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the worst."
I'm going to make you mine.
He's like, "I've been saving up all my energy for this." All right, witch trial related. Witching Hour Paranormal have shared the footage, which they say shows an intriguing incident that occurred during a paranormal investigation at Lancaster Castle in October. The team had previously captured what they described as a strange blue mist during an earlier encounter in the castle in July. And this time they had captured on camera what they described to be a particular figure appearing on the castle wall. They described the sighting as resembling a lady with her hair tied back, dressed in loose clothing, and standing with her hands behind her back. This had led some to speculate that it could be the ghost of Demdike, the renowned Pendle Witch, rumored to haunt the castle, said the Witching Hour paranormal researcher and content creator Tom. Others have suggested it may be the ghost of the haggard lady. However, it is also possible that this phenomenon could be attributed to pareidolia, wherein our minds perceive patterns that may not actually exist. Yeah, so pareidolia is, for those who don't know, is where you see something and your mind creates an image to understand it.
Yeah, it's trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
It's like when you look at a cloud and you see a shape, or
Yep.
you look at a pattern and you see a face. Now, I have seen this photo, and like I said, I'll post this photo with the rest of the stuff too. This isn't pareidolia. Like, usually pareidolia is like, you've got to kind of like squint, look at it, and it's like, oh,
and
there's kind of some eyes and a,
Yep.
and a mouth, and this looks like that. No, this looks like they took a picture of a lady who their hair pulled back in a bun on the stairs.
Oh, that's freaking sweet.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
awesome.
great picture.
That's awesome.
4K pareidolia.
I believe it presents an intriguing opportunity for further exploration and investigation into the supernatural occurrences at the Lancaster Castle.
I think of all the places there, I think the castle itself would be the most fun to investigate.
It sounds like it.
I mean,
like
it's a castle. Come on.
1,000 people. They reported 1,000 people have died in those walls.
That
Wow.
blows my mind.
I know.
That is
It's
nuts.
a lot of people.
That blows my mind. Even if you go to like a tuberculosis hospital in the States,
That's Waverly.
right? Those
Oh,
are the
yeah.
places that you're going to get close to that number.
Yeah.
Okay, so slightly off topic, but related. Why do we hear the stories of the ghosts and the people that died there and not necessarily the evil person, the mayor in this case, who set everything up to kill all of these people so he could be, cool guy around here in the eye of the queen? Why isn't he ghosting around out of guilt because he's the one that murdered all these people?
Because he's burning in hell, babe.
Either that or he probably doesn't have any guilt at all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He probably has no guilt.
Dun dun dun.
He
He don't
not
care.
doing Justice.
he was like, I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's often the case, huh? When
Yep.
Yeah. And
people.
the thing that's really hard to explain is why does one thing turn into a haunting and something else doesn't? Mm-hmm. And I wish we could definitively say this is why it's happening. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knows. And the part that even blows people's minds even further than that is that you don't have to actually die or even be associated to the property to haunt it.
Yep.
You can just wander around and go, I like that place. I'm going to hang out there.
Yeah.
And if I was going to haunt anywhere after I die, it's a castle. Or all of the castles. I will make my trip around.
Right? And we've been to places where we have heard people from other countries. Like they're talking and I'll get like an EVP in another language and I'm like,
Yeah.
how in the crap were you even here?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Well, like in living, you wouldn't have been here.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense why that person would have been here in the living. As death, 100%. I mean, you can go wherever you want. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to fly and see the 7 wonders of the world. I'm going to,
I'm
I
going to
have
go
plans.
everywhere.
Unless there is, again, if you're talking about here in Utah, someplace that you're talking about, or I guess any place if
Anywhere.
you're talking
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
So if we're talking about a long time ago, there was a lot of different languages and stuff like that for revolution, when they were figuring out the Constitution and what language we are going to speak, they were deciding between German and English.
Right.
Missed it by one vote. So
That's very true.
A lot of people that, could have actually spoke a different language, and
That's very true.
and didn't
very,
do
very
it.
true.
It's
Yeah.
just one of those things where you don't expect it, though. Like,
100%. Yeah.
and especially, especially in Utah of places, right?
Well, remember when we went to that prison, and I don't even remember what prison it was. We were at a prison. We were I was sitting on top of the chamber where they would hang people. And
Wyoming.
yeah.
Frontier
that
prison.
was so crazy.
And we got this Hispanic guy
Yeah.
that came through,
He was scared.
and he was like, "Freak, where am I?"
Yeah. What's going
I
on?
just woke up.
Yeah.
He said, "I just woke up.
Yep.
Where am I? Why am
Yeah.
I here?" Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the weirdest SD session we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So the SU session, what that is when someone has, it's basically a box that scans the radio stations really, really fast. Like every sound is a station. So it's
Yeah.
going super fast, and you're not going to get sentences. You're not going to get, a conversation.
You get blips.
Yeah. You'll get like a word that'll pop out,
Sometimes a couple over the course of many stations.
But, well, what I'm saying is like that would be like normal
Yes.
from those actual stations.
Yes.
But when you get a voice that goes over 10
Many.
stations, because it's scanning so fast when you're
Yep.
getting them, that's going over that, and it's the same voice, you're like, oh my gosh. So an Essie's method is where you're hearing those things. You have a person that has that. You have noise canceling headphones on. Sometimes you have
A blindfold.
a blindfold on. And so you can't hear the questions that are being asked during this Essie's method. So you have people asking questions. In our case, I had the headphones on.
Yeah.
I was the one that couldn't hear anything, and I'm just spewing out what I'm hearing,
Yes.
and they're asking all the questions.
Yeah.
So that's where we got this scenario.
Yeah.
But it was in a prison where it was a bunch of random, I think, what was this, like early 1900s people.
It was the Wyoming Territorial Prison.
Yeah.
Or not territorial. It was the first Wyoming
Frontier. It's called Frontier.
prison. Yeah, Frontier Prison. It was
Yeah.
their first real prison there.
Yeah.
And she was sitting right on the trap door for the execution chamber when they were hanging people there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hoping to get like those kind of energies, but then we get this random one that's like, where am I?
Yeah. And he said, I just woke up.
Yep.
He didn't know where he was or why he was there.
And
Nothing.
And then I was hearing other people call him an
Names.
idiot.
Yeah, because he had a stutter.
He did have a stutter, and it was weird because
Yeah.
you could hear it through as it's scanning through the stations.
You can hear him stutter.
He'd go da, 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 and then say it, whatever it is that he needed to say.
Yeah. But when she was saying he has a stutter, and then I would tell him, okay, I need you to just slow down,
Yeah.
take a deep breath, and then think about what you're going to say and just slowly say it. And then after that, his stutter got to be less.
Yeah.
And here's the interesting part: I have no idea that they're asking and telling these things. I have no.
She has no clue. No clue.
This sound, the sound, is so freaking loud.
Yeah.
We can hear it.
We can hear the
With my noise canceling headphones on.
Yeah, but she cannot, because you got to figure that's right in her
my
ears.
Yeah, we can hear it 4 feet away.
She can't hear
She
it,
can't hear
but we
us.
can't hear
She
the
can't hear us
response.
from 4 feet away.
No.
Yeah, and we're in pitch black, so it's not like I'm going to
Nope.
sit there and look at your faces and know what
Nope.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Like,
So this is how we kind of, we usually do this and, see whether the responses are relevant
Right.
to the questions we're asking. And we find that a lot of times when we do it that way, when Elise is the one that's got the headphones and the blindfold on, we find that a lot of times the responses are very relative to the questions that we're asking. And yet she has no idea what we're asking.
Yeah.
So it's
That's wild.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat.
So I've got one quick comment about the language thing
Yeah.
that just popped into my head. That it was in my family, half the family came from the Czechoslovakia, Russia, that general area, Ukrainian area. And I'm remembering a letter that I saw that was written by 3 different people in the same family to send to somebody that was in the States, and it was written in 3 different languages. It was like Russian, Ukrainian, Slovakian, whatever it was. There's 3 different languages that were in there, all on the same piece of paper that was written by one of the family members, continued, then the other one wrote it, and the other one wrote it, because that was
so
what they
cool.
were familiar with. And they were talking about things like the ox that they had was a big topic of conversation for us. Because it was the farm life. So you were talking about the things that they were talking about and what was important. That was the topic of conversation, one of the big themes of Sally the ox. This happened, whatever it was. And it was farm life. It was extremely rural, and it was in 3 different languages, because that's what each of they all in the same family.
That is so cool.
But that's what they knew how to write in. And they spoke multiple languages and did multiple things. So good, just that, and that's what I thought about, of if you're catching a language from somebody that was, what we are used to, you speak one language, right? But so
100%.
many people, especially immigrants and coming out, multiple languages and stuff
Yeah.
would have been very, very common. And that may be why sometimes those kind of unique things come up. So anyway, I thought about that letter.
That's so
and
cool.
it was a really kind of a unique, cool thing that.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I've never seen 3 people write on a letter.
Single
Use-
piece of paper. both
3
sides.
different languages.
Yeah, use multiple languages. I've seen people write, like, someone starts a letter and they're like, oh, you finish it. And then there's someone else.
But it's the same
finish it.
language.
But it's the same language, yeah. Not
But
like-
3 different language on the same piece of
Yeah.
paper.
Yep. It was wild. It was cool.
That's pretty neat.
That's so cool.
That's neat. Everybody, if you enjoyed listening about the Pendle Witches and enjoyed having our special guests on with us, please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps. Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.